Okay. Okay, so afternoon, everyone. I think maybe let's just give people 2 minutes before we get started. And yeah, I think let's give 2 minutes before we get started. So I'll just mute for a bit and then we'll start in 2 minutes time, just basically with an introduction of who I am, um, who Mlinzi is, and with our presenters. So we'll just mute for a bit and then we'll get started in a minute. Okay, so I'm not going to punish the people who made it on time. So let's get started so we can make the most that we can of this session. So afternoon, everybody, and thank you very much for joining us today for our inaugural Choose Tech with the Mlinzi webinar. My name is Nkomani, and I'm a founder and director of Mlinzi Data Solutions. What we plan to do is to host these webinars at least once a month on a Tuesday. And we have seen how rapidly technology has changed our operating landscape as professionals. And we would like to run these webinars and other gatherings with experts on different tech issues that we think are of relevance to professionals and for the business environment. And we're also hoping that we'll be able to bring solutions to you on some of these tech challenges or opportunities that you may face. What to expect today? Our topic today is decision assurance, redefining governance risks and compliance for the digital age. For years, governance risk and compliance frameworks have focused on securing systems, data, and compliance. These efforts remain important, but in today's digital economy, value is created or can be lost at the speed at which decisions are made. As organizations increasingly rely on data, algorithms, and AI-driven processes, the integrity of decisions has just become as critical as the security of the systems. Boards, executives, and auditors must now ask a new question. Can we trust the integrity of our decisioning ecosystem? This session introduces the concept of decision assurance as the next frontier for governance, risk, and compliance. It explains the transformative imperative moving from systems assurance to digital assurance, and finally to decision assurance. Participants will also learn how civic indicators provide a consistent, board-ready language for measuring cyber resilience, compliance, and decision integrity. The future of GRC is not just about protecting systems. It is about protecting or securing the decisions that define organizational resilience, trust, and regulatory confidence. The key learning outcomes, and there are 4 of them. The first is to understand the shift from system-centric security to decision-centric security in modern GRC. The second is to learn how to embed risk decisioning into governance structures and to strengthen resilience and compliance. The third is to explore practical approaches to modernizing internal controls for a digitally transformed AI-driven environment. And the final outcome is to gain insights into aligning regulatory trust, business resilience, and decision integrity within the GRC function. With us today, we've got two Pan-African experts in cybersecurity, William Makatiani and Martin Kamethu. So by way of introduction, or just a quick profile about the speakers that are going to be taking us through this today. William is a visionary founder and CEO of Serianu Limited, a leading cybersecurity and risk consulting firm serving clients across Africa. With over 17 years of global digital ICT experience, William has worked with organizations in Kenya, the US, Israel, Singapore, China, and beyond, helping them strengthen their cyber resilience through research-driven, practical, and effective strategies. He is also the founder of Cybota, a technology company combining AI, data analytics, threat intelligence, and risk modeling to deliver innovative and accessible cybersecurity solutions tailored for Africa. Before founding Serianu, William held key roles at Deloitte, RSA Security, Dell EMC, and the Federal Reserve Bank in Boston. A passionate cybersecurity thought leader and member of the ISACA Kenya chapter, he continues to shape the continent's digital security landscape. Our second expert is Martin, who's a cybersecurity consultant at Serianu, who specializes in technology, risk, and security operation advisory services. At Serianu, he helps clients to design and implement simple, practical, and effective cybersecurity risk management capabilities that strengthen their overall cyber resilience. He currently serves as the country director from Serianu, Botswana, where he leads consulting engagements that enable organizations to build digital resilience through innovative cybersecurity problems tailored to the African context. With over 11 years' experience as a cybersecurity and technology leader, Martin is deeply passionate about innovation and leadership, particularly in exploring Africa's potential to address current and future global cybersecurity challenges. Martin is a certified ethical hacker. I didn't know there was something like that, but apparently there is, and is currently pursuing his MBA at Hout International Business School and actively mentors the next generation of cyber leaders. So just very excited for the panel that will be discussing our topic today. And I'll hand over to William so that he can get us started and just school us for the next 50 minutes or so. Over to you, Martin. William.
Actually, it should be Martin. So Martin, we can start.
Oh, okay. So over to you, Martin.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Norma, and a good afternoon to those of us who are joining us. As introduced, for the longest time, I think the traditional business approach has relied heavily on making sure that businesses achieve value, whether that value is increasing your market share, whether that value means that you are achieving your revenue targets. And the way the businesses we've approached our goals in terms of achieving our value has been in terms of streamlining our processes and making sure that in the digital age that we are taking advantage of the available digital drivers, whether those digital drivers means that we need to invest in technology. I think we have, for the last 10, 15 years, seen an increase in adoption of different digital drivers to help us as businesses increase our speed of achieving value. I think over the last 5-7 years, there has, however, been an interest and a focus on going beyond just creating value to realizing that value can be reduced in a day. And that has been your technology risks, call it cybersecurity, call it data breaches. So businesses have begun going beyond the enablers that they have been adopting, be they technology drivers, to asking themselves, we realize that there is a whole risk landscape that is inherent from the technology drivers that we are implementing as a business. And as a result of that, there has been a lot of different approaches that business adopt in managing that risk landscape. So I think our discussions today are relevant, they are timely, and they are more timely and relevant because we have even gone into a different shift where we are no longer just talking about a digital age, but we are now in a digital age that is powered by artificial intelligence. So whether you are here as an artificial intelligence novice or whether you've had some experience, I think this will be a relevant session for us all. And whether you are coming from a technology background, whether you have some technology background, whether you are heavy on risk, whether your goal is to see how businesses can create value or your organization can continue creating value with relevant frameworks that can help you manage the risk. I think that those are some of the outcomes that we will be expecting from today's session. So as Norma has mentioned, it's a very interesting discussion that we're going to be having, and William, founder and CEO of Serianu, will be taking us through this very insightful session where you will get to appreciate a concept that we are calling decision assurance. I think for those of us who are risk specialists for the longest time, the way we view the business in the lenses of system assurance and making sure that our adoption and implementation of technology is governed by relevant risk structures. And we look at technology and ask ourselves, do we have the right controls that can help us make sure that technology is not only helping us to create value, but it's making sure that we can manage the risks that come from it. We are taking that conversation even further and taking into context the artificial intelligence AI landscape that we are now in, and asking ourselves, are we moving too fast? Do we need to apply the brakes? Do we need to continue in the same speed of innovation that we are at? Do we need to automate all our business processes? What is the impact of us doing that? So those are some of the questions that we're asking ourselves, I think, in the context of this conversation. And the context of this is, again, asking ourselves, what is the focus? Should we focus on the technology? Should we focus on the automation of the processes that we are intending to automate? Or is there something else that we are not focusing on? And I think the shift in this session has been to rather not only focus on the technology, but keep the focus on the decisions and the insights that executives and decision makers in any organization always want to achieve. So I think our focus is, the goal is of any business, the goal of any executive team, decision makers, is not just to focus on the technology layer, the digital enablers, but at the end of the day, the question that any decision maker in the business is asking is, what decisions are we making, and are we making the right decisions? And in the context of us having automated a lot of our processes through, say, for example, artificial intelligence, should it change, or is it actually changing the quality of the decisions that we are making? Can we depend on the output that I've just gotten from me typing in and saying, I'm just about to go in for a board meeting? What are some of the top risks that I need to be worried about if I am in the financial sector in Zimbabwe, in the context of the Southern African region? Can I trust the output from that prompt? If you have gotten a chance to interact with, say, for example, ChatGPT, Claude, which are some of the different artificial intelligence tools that are available to us, can you trust that output? What is happening in the background? What is the engine that is processing all the data and giving you that data? How much can you trust that data? and how much data do we need? How is it altering and changing our ability to make quality decisions? So, ladies and gentlemen, very excited for the insight we're going to be receiving, and I want to welcome William Makatiani, who is the founder and CEO at Serianu, to walk us through this. Most welcome. Welcome, William.
Thank you very much, Martin. I hope you can all see my slides.
Yes, we can.
All right. All right. So thank you very much, Martin. I think it's a great pleasure to be here. And good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you are. I understand it's humid and hot in Zimbabwe. I hope you're keeping yourself in spaces where you won't get too hot. It is cold, not really cold, but chilly in Nairobi, so we can do some weather trading if needed, or weather exchange program. But anyway, thank you very much to the Mlinzi data team. I think it's a great initiative, and we are really looking forward to see what else you'll be able to do in the industry. As you mentioned, Noma, the technology world is changing very fast, and we are at a point where tomorrow you wake up and you find things have changed, and you really have to continue interrogating what you know, what you learned many years ago, and sort of get to a point where you just acknowledge and appreciate that things will change. We are living in a world where your child or your son or your daughter knows a lot more than you do. And unfortunately, it is what it is, and it's changing fast. So today's topic, as introduced by both early speakers, is really around securing systems, from securing system to securing decisions. And what you're looking for really is from decisions to resilience. I think for the longest time, many organizations have been looking at technology as something that sits in a box. So if you think about the very early days, we used to buy computers, you'll type in something, you'll store information in that box, you'll come back, you'll print things. As time has gone by, that box is now doing a lot more than it was many years ago. And we as human beings, we live on decisions. If you think about your timing today, if you drove to work, if you're working from home, if you dropped your kids to school or something, you had to leave on time to get there on time. So everything we do as human beings is driven by the decisions you make. If you make bad decisions, you struggle depending on the context you're working in. If you make good decisions, then you succeed. Think about the best businesses that we've seen in the world. Think about the Apples of this world. They decided they're going to do something, they're going to build a product, and they're going to add certain features, and people like that. Somebody else decided they're not going to do certain things, and they struggled. Think about Polaroid, the decisions they made, when and how. So we as organizations, or the organization we work for, we live on decisions, and it is those decisions that make us successful or make us fail. So I'm going to talk about system assurance, decision assurance. I think for the longest time, as I said, we've been looking at the system and saying, we need to secure this thing. Board members are looking and saying, where is our technology risk? Where is the server? Where is the data center? But that is all changing now. We're now seeing tools and technologies that are able to make decisions. So in the era of AI era, decisions, not system-defined enterprise resilience. Today, if you go to an organization and you find that you've made certain decisions that maybe were not aligned to what you had agreed to from a budgetary perspective, you struggle. And the reason we've not always thought about this issue of decisions is because human beings were in control. So if I walk into an office and I see Martin, and I'm talking to Martin and I'm asking Martin, what did you decide about that plan? I had all the trust to know that it's Martin who made that decision. I did not doubt it. In this day and age, I read emails every morning, and I'll be honest with you, 90% of the emails I'm reading are copy and pasted from ChatGPT. We've seen cases where models are being implemented without very clear oversight. So literally, whatever comes from the model is just copied and pasted, and it's applied. So outcomes are increasingly machine-driven and not human-driven. Boards and executives must govern trust, decision trust, not just IT hygiene. For the longest time, we did a pen test. We went in, did cybersecurity compliance work, and we were happy. Unfortunately, that will not carry us to the next stage. When we talk about AI, it's important for us just to get some context. So AI is already inside your decisions. The question is whether you can explain and trust what it decides. And when you think about that, there are three aspects of AI that we're interested in. We talk about machine learning, where the system can predict. The machine learning aspect is around credit scoring, fraud detection, demand forecasting. Then we have the large language models, which can interpret. You tell this thing, I want to write a document that does A, B, C, D. It will create the document for you. It will critique the document for you. It will even converse with you, depending on how it's been trained. Then you have what you're calling agentic AI, where it can perform tasks. We've had cases where an agent is going out, picking documents, modifying those documents, and sending those documents. So for purposes of context, those are the AI areas we're going to look at. Now, AI will not replace leaders, but it will expose all those leaders who are unready for AI. Now, when you talk about leadership readiness, it's not the technical expertise. So we see a lot of people going out to say, I want to get AI, I have a PhD in AI, it is good to go get the technology and that whole training to appreciate what AI is from a technology perspective. But AI will not impact technology. AI will impact how you make decisions. You can delegate the task of AI, but not the accountability. So governance gaps. So a lot of organizations, they don't have an inventory of what, who and why and using AI. We are seeing regulators all the way from the European Central Bank, the EU, Africa Union, and some countries in the region that are now saying we now need to build some explainability and oversight over what this thing is. And it's very important that we now look at it and say it is a leadership issue. AI is not a technology problem. It is a leadership issue because it's affecting you. By the end of this session, I hope you'll have understood why decisioning is the new attack surface at the AI age. You learn how decision assurance extends trust beyond systems and data. You'll see how indicators make resilience visible in complex environment. Now that you have AI in your environment, now that almost 70% of your employees are using AI, how do you build the assurance capabilities around those? We'll also explore resilience scorecards as the bridge between technology and business. As technology gets even more complicated, board members still have the questions they need to answer. They need to address their fiduciary responsibility. We are not going to go to the boardroom and give them another AI component. We've already overwhelmed them with the cloud, SD-WAN, XDR. We cannot add other components that will even complicate it. So we now need to bridge those two and get a language that they can understand. You'll also leave with a roadmap for actions, actions for boards and executives, and even assurance officers. So as we start, yesterday's cyber risk really focused on attacking targeted system and infrastructure. A lot of our protection was around data confidentiality or integrity, and security centered on IT parameters and access controls. And the impact was very simple: system outage, data breaches, network intrusion. In today's risks, all this is changing. We are now seeing cases where attackers are targeting decisions themselves because you've already modeled this and you build a model. They're not just looking for the system. They're looking for the model. We've had a case in a particular financial institution where this organization was doing their credit card reconciliation using an AI model. What did these guys do? They went into the model, changed so that every time there was a transaction on certain card numbers, there was a reversal on those cards because of one error or the other. It took almost 3 months for the bank to realize actually that had happened. And a wrong decision can trigger financial loss, it can trigger reputational harm or regulatory issues. AI amplifies impact decisions at scale without human oversight. What that means, this thing is running on its own. And of course, humans being humans, if it's working so well, go home and sleep and wait for it to see what it has done for you tomorrow. And that becomes a major issue. Flawed automated decisions with systemic consequences. From a real-world perspective, we've seen biased credit approvals. We've seen flawed AI diagnosis for people who are unwell. We've seen faulty automated trading, regulatory and compliance, and other aspects. So the biggest vulnerability in the AI is no longer the server. It is the decision that is making, that we are asking the AI tool to make for us. So what is decisioning? Decisioning really comes down to how we use data into choices and actions. Think about the village. If you're from a village or you know of a village, there's a kiosk. There's somebody who sells basic things. Could it be coffee, tea, or maybe tea bag or bread or salt? When you show up, this person, the shopkeeper, knows you very well. And based on the data that they know who you are, where you live, they're willing to give you credit and say, you know what? I know who Noma is. I know they will pay for this thing. So let me allow them to get whatever it is. Next time they'll pass here, they'll give it to me. You now extend that to a supermarket. Call it ShopRite, call it different store. When you show up in that, they have a system in place that shows your history, what you've been buying and everything. So they now use that data to make decisions of what it is used to they can give you or not give you. So a bank approves or rejects a loan, an insurer processes a claim, a hospital assigns patient treatment, a government allocates social benefits or if it's medical benefits to an employee or a citizen. Decisions actually are where information becomes impact, because at the end of the day, they can create value and destroy it. As I mentioned, traditionally, we've used our brains to make decisions. So natural intelligence guided decisions limited by scale and speed. When you think about the human era, which took probably the longest era, the way humans migrated from wherever they migrated to get where they were using their brains. Then came computers, which enabled us to store and process more information, what we call the information era and the data processing. Then came the internet, enabled humans to communicate and collaborate at scale. We call that connection era and global connectivity. Organizations can now work with each other, be it in China, be it in US, be it in Russia, you can communicate. Then came the analytics age, where you're looking for insights, data-driven decisions. And now we're in the AI era, what you're calling the automation era. We have moved to a point where the machines have autonomy. Now, when you think about that move, we've reduced dependency on natural intelligence and increased dependency on artificial intelligence. We've moved from human oversight to machine dependency. If you asked a human being back in the old or in the human era, why did you make the decisions you made? They'll be able to explain to you with logic and why and how and when. If you ask a human today who is relying on AI on why they made a decision, they'll have to look at the model. They'll have to go back and look at the model and ask what, why, and then explain to you the logic of the model. Is it being efficient? Maybe. Is it being lazy? Maybe. Does it affect how will the future look like? Well, the future look like very, very much so. So again, natural intelligence is really about human judgment. Then you move to what you're calling machine judgment. We have increased efficiency, speed, scale, productivity, and each stage of that technology evolution was driven by efficiency. But we've also increased fragility, what you call vulnerability, opacity, and risk. Now, today's reality, as I said, our dependency on natural intelligence has gone down. Today's reality is going, in terms of dependency on artificial intelligence, goes up. But remember, technology is supposed to serve human beings. So as we continue depending on AI and artificial intelligence and machine, we need to continue asking ourselves, what is happening to the human nature that allowed us to coexist? Are we now going to bring robots in our homes? When you think about what else has happened, we think about black box decision making. There's opaque processes where inputs and outputs are visible, but logic remains hidden. All these fintechs that are coming out and giving loans to individuals, half of them, they have all these models. Sometimes those models are off, sometimes they're on, but we just don't know. You can't explain really what happened in some cases. There's also what you call bias and fairness failures. If you go online, depending on, again, some racial factors, you'll get sometimes the system might not be able to give you what you need, not because it doesn't, it's not its intention, it's not been trained to do that. Then there's the issue of automation, which becomes even a bigger problem that we need to worry about. I'll give you a very good example. There's a HR manager, and this is a very, very, very recent story. The HR manager was interviewing for head of credit, head of a department. Let's call it head of credit. The HR manager received 10 CVs. The HR manager was late to analyze those CVs so that he could hire the right credit manager. What did the HR manager do? Got the CVs, dumped them into ChatGPT, loaded a job description and plugged it into ChatGPT and told ChatGPT, look at the job description and look at the 10 CVs and tell me who do you think will be the right candidate for this. But there was a mistake the HR manager made. The HR manager did not pick the right job descriptions. He picked the job description for a junior employee, which was assistant junior analyst. So what did ChatGPT do? It picked the most junior candidates, the CVs of the most junior candidates, and told the HR manager, these are the right candidates. What did the HR manager do? Pick those CVs, rank them based on what ChatGPT said, and took them directly to the meeting. When they started discussing, as they're halfway there, they realized, we might have picked the candidates, because at that time, they don't look at the JD. The meeting invite says head of credit. But how come we have junior? So it's only when one of the managers asked, can I see the other CVs, that they realized something was off. Now, how many such decisions are being delegated to machines in your organizations today? From credit scoring, from HR hiring, from even planning meetings or even discussing on who should get what opportunity and where. So when you think about why decisions can fail, we need to have those scenarios in our minds. We have the issue of bias, where AI produces unfair discriminatory outcomes based on flawed training data on algorithmic design. Credit scoring, AI denying qualified borrowers from minority groups. We've seen this in a lot of the countries, European countries. Predictive policing systems amplifying racial bias. In terms of model failure, we've seen errors, outages, or drift that cause models to deliver incorrect or harmful outputs. Healthcare AI missing signals in patient diagnosis. They looked at one result, but they didn't look at another one. So when they diagnosed what medication this patient should get, it was off. We've seen trading algorithms triggering flash crashes in financial markets. Then, of course, the issue of automation. Wrong decisions replicated at scale without adequate controls. Mass automated marketing messages sent to wrong customer segments. A pricing algorithm creating an intended market distortion. There's this case of a supermarket which applied algorithms every weekend, but the data they used was an outdated one. So they ended up using pricing for last month, which was lower than the pricing they should have applied. And so people got very good discounts, but they should not have gotten those discounts. Then, of course, you have the issue of lack of oversight. A lot of our board members, a lot of our leadership, they have not spent time to understand this AI thing. Like everything else, technology, they're delegating to the IT team. Meanwhile, AI has gone beyond IT. The HR manager never talked to IT when she was making the decisions she was making. So there are no human checkpoints or governance framework to monitor and validate AI decisions. We have social media algorithms that are promoting harmful content without review. Watch some of your YouTube. For those with children who are watching stuff online, look at some of the videos they get, and you'll now start appreciating how and why. Autonomous systems making critical decisions without supervision. So those are some of the things. These are not just IT outages, they are decision failures with systemic business impact. So I'm going to introduce to you what we're calling the BRAID framework. It's called the Business Readiness for AI Decisioning, which builds accountability, assurance, transparency into AI-driven. What we are saying is, as an organization, because you're not going to run away from the AI discussion, it's important for us to go through an approach or a framework that guides you on building that. So the first thing is what you call process readiness. Look at all your processes. Identify the processes that are AI heavy. We are seeing a lot of customer care departments now deploying robots. Is that a process that is relying on AI? If an AI robot is talking to your customer, what are they communicating? Then you move to the people readiness, literacy, and challenge culture to question AI decisions. So look at the processes, look at the people in those processes, look at the data that is being consumed or being produced in those processes, because data belongs to a process, and that process is being used by an individual or certain owners. Then look at the technology that is making those decisions and the decision itself, because at the end of the day, every single manager, every single employee makes decisions. You don't hire them to manage processes. You hire them to manage decisions. And when you aggregate good decisions in a good year, you have a good, successful year financially, or whichever way you measure the success of the program. So the 5 dimensions of BRAID are interwoven, creating a complete framework for responsible AI decisioning. In terms of the methodology, you look at it and you say, number one, what methodology then do we follow? Number one is to locate. You need to locate where AI is being used or where AI is likely to be used. In this particular case, for the HR department, it's very important for us to go in and say, can we identify where AI already decides, be it ChatGPT, Gemini, or any other tool, because those are the decisions. 50% of your emails in your organizations today are AI enabled. Do you know that? And if you know that, what are you doing about it? Then you now map. Go back to your document flows and accountability processes. Look at the decision maps. Is it that that decision is being made very well to at the end or in the middle? Then you look at security. How do we secure the data that is being used? A lot of us are now collecting data, dumping it into a lot of these LLM systems. A lot of us are getting data that could be biased or old data. If your data is not good, the model won't be good. It addresses the assurance checklist. Then you empower, train your people in culture. If you think about social media or how we've done digital, it's very critical that you're able to train your employees so that they understand all these things. The last part is what you call monitor, measure, and improve, so that you on a continuous basis, you know that AI is working for you and not you working for AI. So go back to the new boardroom imperative, what you're calling decision assurance. System assurance is traditional era. Our questions was, we always used to question, are the systems secure? And when you ask about a system security, when you get a vulnerability report and the system is secure, then you are comfortable enough to say you are able to work and everything is working. So I'm hoping that is in point. I hope you're all moving well. Any comments? We're good? There's a lot of silence. We're good?
Yes, we are. Just a lot of information that we're just soaking in, hey?
All right.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. All right. So let me continue. Yeah, so the system assurance, those days of system assurance where we'll assess a system and we'll be comfortable to say, you know what, the system is secure. Then we moved into the digital assurance where we talked about integrity of data across interconnected systems. And we're asking ourselves, is the third party secure? If you're using a system like Salesforce.com or one of these cloud systems, we were interested in confirming the third party connection is secure. Then we've now moved into the decision assurance, where the integrity of the decisions are made by humans and AI. Will the human be working hard enough to monitor what the AI is talking about, or will let it make decisions for us? And this is very important because the role of the board and the executives is to govern decisions, not firewalls. So when the technology side goes to a boardroom and start discussing firewalls, we are doing a huge disservice to our own careers. And for these oversight teams, assurance must prove that decisions remain reliable under disruption. AI is disrupting our decision-making process. Are those decisions reliable? Traditional cybersecurity focused on technical control, the not governance impact. In the AI era, trustworthiness, explainability are important as security. So decision assurance is the next frontier for governance. Now, like every other complex body, when you think about the modern environment, it's become so complex that you cannot rely on basic controls. And I'll use the human body, for example. The human body has almost 11 organ systems, millions of signals, and it's managed through vital signs. You look at your blood pressure, you look at your heart rate, you look at your temperature, and you do continuous monitoring essential for health assessment. And that's why when somebody is unwell and they go to a hospital, you'll see all these things that are plugged onto their body to just confirm how, what, why. Complex, yet managed through key indicators. Think about a plane. Thousands of moving parts and systems monitored by instrument panels, both on the flight and off the flight. Real-time alerts, indicators prevent failures. Pilots rely on indicators, not intuition. Think about an airport. Dozens of independent systems, could it be a radar, managed through control towers and monitoring centers. Any single mistake and you have a crash. Coordination integrated by integrated dashboards and alerts. Continuous monitoring enables safe operations. Organizations today, we have hybrid cloud. Somebody is on Amazon. Somebody else is on a different platform, call it Oracle Cloud. Somebody else is running from Salesforce. You have all these systems. You're relying on a fintech somewhere else. You have global supply chains. You have AI models and agents. Then you have humans and machine teams that are working together. All will be working together very soon. Indicators are the only way to continuously measure resilience in complex systems in real time. It is working in the human body. It is working on the plane. It is working in the airport. Why can't we adopt a similar approach to be able to pick that? And in terms of health and home analogy, as I said, for human health, when you look at your blood pressure and your heart rate, you know something is off. When you think about your oxygen levels or respiratory indicators, cholesterol and glucose, weight and body, you know what you're dealing with. On the home safety, you have a smoke detector, carbon monoxide alarms, security systems, insurance coverage. So you put all these things in place to make sure something happens. So resilience cannot be assumed. Indicators expose posture, strength, and vulnerabilities complex system. We trust our health and our homes through indicators. Why not our decisions at work? And that brings in what you're calling the 6 civic assurance indicators. Number 1 is what you call profile. What are my critical processes? What data is created in those processes? What assets matter? And what decisions are we making across our business process? You need to be able to walk into a board meeting and talk about your number 1 sources of decision risk or data risk. Then you move to the next step, what you call maturity indicators. How structured and consistent your governance processes. In the risk area, you have what you call the CIO. You have what you call the CRO. You have the COO. You have the CFO. You have the audit department. If those 5 functions are not working in tandem, it's like a relay. If they're not relaying and working together well, you are going to struggle. And unfortunately, in our current situation, we always blame IT. Actually, IT is the most audited group across because we think audit will come, audit risk will come, do their risk assessment, but also audit. COO will bring an external partner to audit. Then you have visibility. Do we have a clear view in our risk controls and exposures across the enterprise? Exposures, what vulnerabilities do we have today? What threats are we experiencing today? What third-party issues experiencing today? What you call exposure. And then compliance, of course. We now have the Data Protection Act. We have PCI standards. We have ISO. We have internal policies. How are we complying? Then we now finally have resilience, ability to withstand, recover, and adapt, which is the most important of all these. You can have all these things in place, but if you're not resilient enough, then you struggle. So for this organization, the same way we look at a body, we have what we call the 6 lenses and 1 truth. Can our decisions survive disruption? So I've introduced oversight framework, what we call the BRAID framework, which gives you readiness framework, governance structured AI decisions. I've introduced what you're calling the indicator monitoring, visibility indicators, measurement frameworks, continuous monitoring. And now I'm going to talk about the scorecard. What is it that you take to the board? It's good for us in the operational side of things to talk about technology, AI. But if you take that discussion to the board, you will struggle. They will not understand. They might have one individual there who they trust, but that individual also gets overwhelmed. So BRAIDs build structure, Civic creates visibility. Together they form comprehensive decision assurance, a complete approach to AI governance that bridges technical implementation with board oversight, because you want them to know and understand what you're trying to achieve as an organization from not only a technology perspective, but also from an internal perspective, the things you're doing. Without indicators, assurance is invisible, unquantified, and unmeasurable. I've sat on boards where I've been brought in as an expert to listen in. And to be honest with you, half the time, the finance team will come in. They'll come with numbers. They'll come with ROI. They'll come with things that are making sense. You'll get the sales team. They'll come with numbers. They'll come with quantified things that you can feel and appreciate. IT, cybersecurity, technology assurance team, they'll come in with a 70-page document with new terms. Today we have a new term. We have a new thing called ransomware. So all of a sudden, the board is more scared than they are actually providing oversight. They react to what you tell them and not support you in the decisions you're making. Technical complexity, hybrid cloud infrastructure, AI models and algorithm, continuous deployment. every single time there's something new you're deploying, technical logs and data. With indicators, assurance becomes measurable, manageable, and actionable. Board oversight, they need governance outcomes. They need to govern outcomes. Their goal is not firewalls. They need resilience, visibility, business risk understanding, strategic decision making. Those are the things they focus on. So when you look at on this side of technical complexity and the other side of board oversight, the question is, how do you break those two? And it comes down to indicators. Indicators transform abstract assurance into actionable governance. You can convert a 70-page report into 6 indicators to give comfort to your board that they understand. So lessons from the field. Banking. The credit model was biased. Defaults went up because of lack of review. What should have been done? There should have been a business process readiness review, human review checkpoints. Don't just trust the framework or the model. Public sector, automated triage of denied legitimate claims. You have a citizen who go in, they've been paying money to the social security or the health fund, and they're not able to be paid. And you also have an appeal escalation. Retail, you have a pricing engine error, 2-day margin loss. Again, the data that was used was off. So AI failures are governance failures and not algorithm failures, and we need to appreciate that. I'm going to pause here for a minute. If you have a phone, you can take a photo of this. We will use these documents briefly here, but you can also refer to them later on. But I'll also show you the same documents at the end of the session. I hope there's no question right now as I continue. Let me just look at the chat. I hope there are no questions, or we can have the questions at the end, if that's okay. Just taking
Yeah,
a
I
quick
think
break.
maybe let's leave the question to the end.
Thank you very much.
That's okay.
So you can take a photo of that. It's just a QR code. It will give you some material that you can refer to as we continue, but you can look at it. Here's a very simple scorecard, what we're calling resilience scorecard. Again, it's not very clear, but when you download the version, you will get a copy of that. What you see here is a very simple document. Of course, it has a lot of data. Don't mind that. On the left side, we have what you call controls. So IT brings in these controls, what you see from data assessment to service availability. On the top side, you see what the business leaders understand. They understand loss of funds. When you walk to a board and you tell a board, we are likely to lose money, they pay attention. When you tell them we are likely to lose service and it will be covered by the media, they are likely to pay attention. When you tell them we are likely to lose data and the Office of the Data Protection is likely to fine us, they pay attention. When you tell them there's a loss of trust, if we get breached, people will not come to us for our services. They are able to appreciate that. Now, when you look at it, we have model fraud, where you have a model that somebody is able to go in and they're able to perpetrate some type of fraud. Model outage, model manipulation, model mistrust. So this is a very simple document that you can look at it. Of course, will require time to walk you through this. If you wanted that, that's a whole day session. But it gives you what you call resilience. When you start thinking about the environment you're working in, whether it's with suppliers or third parties, we're able to get that data and plug it in. You should be able to look at it and ask yourself, on the left side, this is what technology is giving us. Technologies understand risk assessments. They understand third-party management. They understand malware defenses. How do we combine this data so that we come up with a number, just like the sales team or the finance team, that we can consistently track? That is what you call resilience scorecards. The first one was a CDC scorecard, and that's also a CDC scorecard is similar. Small error in the slide, but it should just be able to give you an example of what it is you'd expect from a typical resilience. So somebody with very low resilience, you'll see they're struggling. They'll get a D. Somebody with very good resilience, they'll get 100 and above and going on 91 and above. And you're able to appreciate what that is. So when you think about resilience scorecards, I'll walk you through a little bit of what that is. You have a 1-page, 1 language, 1 truth. 2 different worlds need a shared language. Board and Exco understand loss scenarios. We are likely to lose money. We are likely to lose service. We're likely to lose data. We're likely to lose trust. Technology understands controls, preventive controls. They understand detective strength of those controls. And when you combine the two, you can express those scenarios vis-a-vis the controls in 1 number and 1 language. I have a very good example here. If you look at an organization and you worry about financial loss, an example event is model fraud that does your reconciliation. We review those controls. You're able to understand what the resilience score based on what you have and the scenarios that we are seeing being exploited. You have a score of 52, which is low. You have a service model outage. You're relying on an AI model to be able to give you some output. We look at it, the resilience is 47%, which means it can be compromised, which means it can be protected. Again, it's low. You have your data. Nobody goes in to look at the data. The case of the supermarket, it's around 62%, again, moderate. You have trust. Your models can be trusted because they have bias, or the data that was used was one side of the country. Because for you to build a very good model, it has to be able to understand the entire country data set to tell you some good sampling size that you can use. So in 60 seconds, the board member sees where the enterprise is fragile and they can make decisions. This goes beyond AI as an issue. You can look at all the other scenarios that you need to worry about. From a maturity model perspective, organizations that have unstructured AI use at stage ad hoc. So if you go back to Braid, we are able to look at that and say, are you aware? Are you structured? Are you embedded? Are you assured? And as you start integrating this ERM, we see maturity. So maturity is not measured by how much AI you deploy, but how responsibly you govern the AI that you deploy. You'd rather have 2 scenarios and have them well governed than have 100 scenarios that are poorly governed from that perspective. So when you think about the resilience grading scale, there are different scales as I discussed. There's very high resilience, fully resilient, negligible gap remain. You have all the way to very low resilience, very weak resilience, organizations highly exposed. Grades make resilience as intuitive as school report card. You don't want to walk to the board with 70 pages discussing AI risk. You want to go with a very simple document that explains what and the ranking and what you're going to do to improve that ranking. So why resilience scorecards matter? Number one, boards and executives are keen very clearly on oversight. They want things in their language. Regulators benchmark resilience across institutions. They appreciate that. Tech risk and ops, they have a performance in what you call control design and the threat detection. Because when you design controls, is to be able to prevent an attack. And you want to be able to combine that. And now this is a very good, interesting case. Why do we do control design and threat detection? A lot of us know people who have dogs. And a lot of us know if somebody has a Chihuahua dog and you attack them, likely it won't stop much. Now, if it's barking and there's a wall behind that house, you won't even know it's a Chihuahua dog. But if you get attacked, the Chihuahua dog might not prevent it. So when the way you look at it is, not only do you have a control, but can we validate the control works? Then you have what you call shared language, which aligns with business and technology. And resilience scorecards turn cyber risk into board-ready language. So as we wrap up, what are some of the key takeaways? Number one, from the CEO and board checklist, they need to demand decision assurance, reporting framed in loss scenarios. We don't want 70 documents, 70 pages showing up on the CEO. If you cannot summarize the issues you're facing, something is off. We need to ask what our top 5 loss scenarios and how resilient are we? We need to require resilience scorecards that addresses the 4 different categories. We need to tie executives' KPIs to measure improvement in resilience. We need to use scorecards to guide investments where resilience gaps are greatest. And boards and exco govern through loss scenarios. This is the thing that keeps them awake, or these are the things that keep them awake. From the CISO, CRO perspective, you need to look at your designed controls and your threat detection capabilities and tie those to your loss scenarios. You need to build resilience scorecards, translating technical metrics into business-facing insights. You need to benchmark posture across business units and peers. And then you need to translate the CDC and the TDC, what you call control design capability, threat design, into board-ready narratives so that you're communicating up. You need to use scorecards to align cyber risk compliance. CISOs and CROs manage controls and detections, but must communicate them as loss resilience. Leadership action plan again, demand quarterly AI oversight reports, include decision assurance in border charts, appoint a decision assurance champion or decision oversight champion, map top 5 AI influence decision to Braid, require AI decision assurance, harmonize standards regionally if you're cross organization. What should you be doing next week? Where is AI already influencing our key decisions? Identify the top 5 AI influence processes across business units, nominate an AI decision assurance champion, begin mapping your processes, your data, your people technology. Next month, structure the assurance, complete a decision inventory, locate and map, define ownership, validation checkpoints, escalation. Build your brain readiness dashboard to track governance. Present early insight in management on risk. 6 months from today, measure the 6 indicators, even if it's just from a pilot perspective. Present scorecards and indicators trends to board or risk committee. Benchmark progress across departments or institutions. Next 12 months, sustain the resilience. Embed decision assurance into board and audit committees. Require quarterly AI governance reports. Tie executive KPIs to measurable improvement. And then scale dashboards and scorecards for continuous oversight. Make resilience sustainable in 6 months. Sustain that governance over time. Again, resilience is the new currency of trust. Resilience scorecards are how to count it. The true measure of leadership in the AI era is not how well we deploy machines, but how faithfully we preserve the human judgment that guides them. Some additional material, I'd shared this with you already. So if you've not seen it, go ahead and pick that. We've just released a white paper that you can use to build. Again, the title has a mistake, but this is a different QR code. We just released a white paper this past week on decision oversight in the age of AI, which will give you some guidance. You can also download that white paper, look at it, see how you're using it. If you have any questions after that, come back to us and see how we can support you. Noma, I would like to take this back to you so that we can go ahead with any questions.
Wow. Thank you so much for that, William and Martin. I think I am definitely, my mind has been blown over. Just a lot that I didn't know about. And I really think that this is an hour that has been well spent. I'm not even going to begin to try and summarize what you've spoken about. I think what we'll do for the participants is also share your slides so that they can also go through them at our own during their own time. And we'll also allow people to share. We'll also have a recording, so we'll put our recording up on the YouTube slide and also do like summaries out of this so that we can just share with people in general. What I want to encourage is that if there's information that because we're also going to be hosting a breakfast on Thursday, the 20th of November, we'll share the details of that on our social media sites. But what I'm going to do is ask someone to put up, or maybe I'll put it up just at the end of the meeting, like our social media handles so you can follow us. But on Instagram, we're at Mlinzi Data Solutions. Then on LinkedIn, we are Mlinzi Data Solutions once again. So you can follow us and get more information on the breakfast that we're holding on the 20th. So the idea behind the breakfast is so we can do a deeper dive into how your organization or the different organizations that you can work with can embed cyber in their organizations. But it's going to be a 4-hour session, not too heavy, but something that I think will be quite beneficial. So don't want to take up too much time because we've got a minute, but I think if people will allow, we'll open up Q&A for 5 minutes, and any additional questions that we may have, we're setting up a WhatsApp group. So you can also check us out on that. Questions to the floor. So I have a question that I received. And I think this is directed at either William or Martin, but actually 3 questions that I've got. What does one need to do to get started on the civic framework? And then the second is, what is a good online resource to understand decision assurance better? And then the third is, when is the next deep dive for key topics discussed today? Okay, so that one will answer for you. But then I think the first 2, what does one need to do to get started on the civic framework? And what is a good outline resource to understand decision assurance better? And if there's any other questions, you can drop them in the chat, or you can WhatsApp me or email me if you'd like, and then I'll just read them out for you.
All right, so let Martin answer the first one. How do we get started with civic? And then I'll address the issue of decision assurance. So Martin, got it.
Thank you, Noma. There are four domains that we have broken down the civic framework into. And the goal of this was to try and help anyone who is starting their cybersecurity journey and your technology assurance journey in thinking about 4 domains. So number 1 is to think about, as an organization, depending on how big you are, how complex, and the size of how you are, what are you currently doing around your cyber risk preparedness? The outcome of that goes into a second domain that we call cyber risk reduction. So your cyber risk preparedness, the owners of that domain is supposed to be your risk oversight team. And the outcome of your cyber risk preparedness is a technology team that implements the right controls to reduce the risk. And then since you cannot reduce risk 100%, you need your security teams that continuously monitor for threats that are trying to exploit controls. So those are the 3 main domains. And then ultimately you want to continuously measure. So the last domain is cyber risk quantification. So we have content and material that we can share around this, but I think anyone who is already way ahead in terms of your cyber security journey and your technology risk assurance journey, you'd want to begin thinking about what are the conversations that we're having in our teams around cyber risk preparedness, cyber risk reduction, risk detection, and risk quantification. Thank you.
Thank you, Martin. So in terms of decision assurance, I think decision assurance is an emerging area. We've always looked at it, if you're in the consulting field, we've always looked at it, but we haven't paid much attention because the human was always at the front. So we trusted the human will make the decision. But now as we're going to the AI side of things, if you look at the ECB, so the report I've just shared with you, if you look at the white paper, it's actually based on a paper that was received by the European Central Bank and McKinsey a couple of weeks back. And we've localized this to give it a local perspective of what it is. But decision assurance is an area that is picking up. You can start with the document that I've shared, and you can download that online. And then as you go online, you can look at some of the documents that are coming out of the AI explainability discussions, which can be able to guide you. But for sure, over the next few months, you'll now start seeing a lot of that. Of course, I think last month we saw a case where an audit firm or one of the big 4 firms had an issue in Australia. And I think that now becomes a discussion that we are seeing. And individually within organizations, we're also seeing it. We may not be talking about it, but we are seeing decisions that we as humans will not ever have supported, but they've made their way out the door. So it's an emerging area. I would suggest start with the report that we have. We've even given you the references where you can read more in the report, and that allows you to start appreciating it. But just think about your organization. Today, when you came into the organization, you must have made some decisions. Are those good decisions? Are they bad decisions? When you aggregate those decisions over a period of 365 days, or however long you spend in your office, you will succeed or fail. And that now forms the basis of saying decision. And for a board member, their goal is to oversight decisions when they are not there on a regular basis. Operational teams, CEOs, they oversight, give it to managers. Managers, they have team members. In whichever role you're in, you make a decision. We now need to look at it because we are losing that trust that we had with the human being. Back to you, Norma.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I think it's 5 past, so I can assume that we don't have any further questions. But as I said, I encourage you to follow us on our social media handles, and we will be getting in touch with everybody who logged into this. And I think we can actually close off if we've got no questions. And just to thank William and Martin very much, and the audience as well, for just coming this afternoon, and to just to say, give yourself a pat on the back for educating yourself, because tech is a bit scary. I've been scared of tech for quite some time, but it's something that I've realized that you cannot run away from it, and you actually need to embrace it. So that's just my encouragement to you all, that let's school ourselves and let's make tech work for us and understand what those risks are. So thank you very much to everyone, and hope that you enjoy the rest of your afternoon. And we're looking forward to seeing you and your teams on the 20th. We'll share details. Thank you. Take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.